Every March 17th, the world turns green. Rivers are dyed emerald. Cities throw massive parades. Beer flows freely. Everyone, for one day, claims to be Irish. But what if I told you that the global St. Patrick's Day party you know is very different from how it's traditionally experienced in Ireland itself? Today, we're unpacking the St. Patrick's Day paradox, the strange gap between the worldwide celebration and the quieter, more complicated reality behind the holiday's origins. Because behind the shamrocks and green hats lies a story shaped by loss, migration, identity, and reinvention. St. Patrick's Day didn't start as a party. For most of its history in Ireland, March 17th was a religious feast day. It marked the death of St. Patrick, the 5th century missionary traditionally credited with spreading Christianity across Ireland. The day was solemn. Pubs were often closed by law. Families attended church. Reflection mattered more than revelry. Even well into the 20th century, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland was calm, conservative, and inward-looking. There were no massive street parties, no green beer, no global spectacle. So how did it become this? The answer lies far from Ireland, across the ocean. In the 19th century, millions of Irish fled famine, poverty, and colonial rule. The Great Famine alone forced over 1 million people to emigrate, many to the United States. These Irish immigrants arrived poor, stigmatized, and often despised. In cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, Irish communities used St. Patrick's Day as a way to assert identity in a society that treated them as outsiders. Parades weren't just celebrations, they were statements. We are here. We belong. Over time, what began as a defensive cultural display became a massive public celebration. Irishness was repackaged into something colorful, loud, and marketable. Green became a symbol not of struggle, but of fun. Ironically, the more Irish people suffered at home, the more Irishness was celebrated abroad. By the mid-20th century, the American version of St. Patrick's Day had grown so large that it looped back to Ireland itself. Tourism boards noticed. Cities saw economic opportunity. Ireland began re-importing its own holiday, but in a transformed form. Today, Dublin hosts major festivals. Pubs are packed. The celebration is louder than it once was. But many Irish people still feel a disconnect. Ask locals, and you'll often hear the same sentiment. St. Patrick's Day isn't really for us anymore. For some, the global version flattens Irish history into stereotypes: drinking, luck, leprechauns, while ignoring centuries of colonization, famine, and political struggle. For others, it's simply strange to watch the world celebrate a version of Irish identity that feels frozen in time. There's also a quiet irony. The diaspora kept Irish culture alive when Ireland itself was struggling to survive. But in doing so, it reshaped that culture into something new, something more performative, more simplified, and more commercial. Neither version is fake. The global celebration isn't wrong. It's real, meaningful, and rooted in history. And the Irish perspective isn't rejection, it's complexity. St. Patrick's Day became a mirror, reflecting two truths at once: a homeland shaped by memory and loss, and a diaspora shaped by survival and pride. So when the world turns green this March 17th, remember this. You're not just celebrating a saint. You're celebrating migration, reinvention, and the strange way identity changes once it leaves home. Sometimes the biggest parties are born from the quietest histories.